As reported in Bob Woodward and Robert Costa's book Peril, Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley called his Chinese counterpart, General Li Qiang, twice in the closing months of the Trump presidency to tell him the U.S. would not strike China. Milley's first call last October 30th was prompted by intelligence that China thought the U.S. was prepared to attack because U.S. carriers had carried out military exercises in the South China Seas, and Trump was berating China for the coronavirus.
We must hold accountable the nation which unleashed this plague onto the world, China.
2 days after the January 6th insurrection, Milley calls General Li again. Woodward and Costa write, Li remained unusually rattled, putting the two nations on the knife edge of disaster.
And it's in the aftermath of that he sits down with commanders at the Pentagon and goes over with them the procedures for how a nuclear weapon can be used.
Also alarmed after January 6th, Speaker Pelosi, who calls Milley to ask, according to a transcript obtained by the authors, what precautions are available to prevent an unstable president from initiating military hostilities or from accessing the launch codes and ordering a nuclear strike. Milley ends up assuring her, I know the system and we're okay. The president alone can order the use of nuclear weapons. One person can order it. Several people have to launch it. And the book reports Mike Pence initially sought a way around counting the Electoral College votes, calling Dan Quayle, who had played that role in 1993, who tells Pence, Mike, you have no flexibility on this. None. Zero. Forget it. Tonight, former President Trump told Newsmax for Milley to say he was going to attack China is the most ridiculous thing he's ever heard. General Milley is not commenting, but people familiar tell NBC News a number of cabinet officials agreed to keep close watch on the president's national security decisions at that time.
Breaking news, the peril of Trump. America's top general, just 2 days after the January 6th Capitol insurrection, so worried about the then president's angry and erratic behavior, he called a secret meeting with top deputies, including the chain of command for the country's nuclear arsenal. General Mark Milley's message at that meeting, no one was to act on any orders for military strikes, even from the president, unless Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, was personally involved in the sign-off as called for by Pentagon protocols. Details of that extraordinary top-secret Pentagon meeting among the many startling new revelations about the final days of the Trump presidency in Peril, the brand new book by the legendary Washington Post journalist Bob Woodward and his colleague at the Post, Robert Costa. Our CNN special correspondent, 𝐍𝐞𝐰 obtained an early copy of this book, and she is with us now. Wow.
John, Woodward and Costa, as you say, report that General Mark Milley took top secret action to limit President Trump's ability to make a military strike or to use nuclear weapons. Let me just set the stage from the book. According to Woodward and Costa, on January 8th, Milley is deeply shaken from the assault on the Capitol on the 6th. He believes Trump, to your point, is unstable, unpredictable, and Woodward and Costa write, Milley believes that Trump is in serious mental decline. He also has been talking back channel to the Chinese. He is aware from intelligence that the Chinese are on edge because of January 6th and because of Trump's behavior. So he's trying to reassure them behind the scenes. And Milley tells his senior staff, quote, you never know what a president's trigger point is. Against this backdrop, same day, January 8th, Milley gets a call from Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. We've heard about this call, but Woodward and Costa got an exclusive transcript of the call. Pelosi has the same concerns that Milley does. The phone call is dramatic, it is blunt, and Pelosi wants Milley to reassure her that the nuclear weapons are safe. And this is the exchange. Pelosi, who knows what he might do? He's crazy. You know he's crazy. He's been crazy for a long time. So don't say you don't know what his state of mind is. He's crazy, and what he did yesterday, meaning actually 2 days ago, January 6th, is further evidence of his craziness. General Milley says, Madam Speaker, I agree with you on everything. Milley reassures Pelosi on the call, but when he gets off, he thinks to himself, she's right, and he decides to take the this extraordinary action.
So he has this call with the speaker in
Right.
which she is agitated and essentially reinforces his concerns.
Correct.
He's seeing this intelligence and actually having a back channel. That's extraordinary. Back channel with his counterpart in China saying, calm down, everything will be okay. And he decides to call this extraordinary meeting. Take us inside.
Right. And by the way, according to Woodward and Costa, Milley never tells the president about these back channel calls. So he calls an extraordinary meeting of the National Military Command Center, the Pentagon War Room. He brings the generals in and the officials, according to Woodward and Costa. Just remember, he is not technically in the chain of command. He is an advisor to the president. And he tells the generals and the officials who run the war room, no matter who calls you, you got to let me know. Here's what he says, quote, if you get calls, no matter who they're from, there's a process here, there's a procedure. No matter what you're told, you do the procedure, you do the process, and I'm part of the process. Look, Milley may be criticized by some for overstepping his authority, but according to Woodward and Costa, he felt that he couldn't trust Trump and that we were in such a dangerous time of risk that he had to take all necessary precautions. He actually had an expression for it. He called it the absolute darkest moment of theoretical possibility, what Trump might do.
And so General Milley knows at this point his relationship with the president over that demonstration across the White House was a little toxic. It was bold. So perhaps he's worried about the relationship. But he also has other evidence. They write in the book about this secret memo that General Milley found out without his knowledge. The president was trying to very quickly pull troops out of Afghanistan before he left office.
Right. Milley had proof that President Trump could go rogue. He had done it once before. A week after Trump loses the election, on November 11th, this memo, a military directive, shows up unexpectedly at the Pentagon. It is a secretly drafted and signed by the president memo saying you're to get out of Afghanistan by January 15th, before Trump's presidency is over. There's just one problem. No one on the national security team, no one at the Pentagon knew that this had been drafted and signed. It had been done by two Trump loyalists at the White House. They had done an end run around the national security team. They were completely blindsided. So Milley decides he's going to go over a no-notice, a surprise visit to the White House, and he confronts National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, who says, I don't know anything about this either. And Milley says to him, quote, what do you mean you have no idea? You're the National Security Advisor to the president, and the Secretary of Defense didn't know about this, and the Chief of Staff to the Secretary of Defense didn't know about this, the chairman didn't know. How the hell does this happen? In the end, O'Brien convinces Trump to nullify the memo. As we all know, he didn't pull out the troops, but it shows two things. It shows that Trump was willing to do an end run on his national security and military advisors. It also shows, for all the criticism now that Trump and some of his allies are making about Biden's withdrawal from Afghanistan, he had just signed an order to get out very, very quickly.
Get out even more quickly.
Right.
And there's other new details. Again, we know about the dysfunction in the White House at that time, especially the tension between the president and his then vice president, Mike Pence. Donald Trump wanted Mike Pence to jump in front of the train. And we've heard about this before, but they have new details about this January 5th meeting, the day before Mike Pence has to preside over the Senate and essentially accept the results of the Electoral College, which is to accept Joe Biden will be the next president of the United States. The president and the vice president, they take us inside that meeting, too.
So these are direct quotes of Trump and Pence. It's the evening of January 5th, and they can hear the MAGA supporters outside on Pennsylvania Avenue cheering, blow horns. And Donald Trump is twisting Mike Pence's arm, and he gestures toward the MAGA supporters outside that they could hear, and he says to Pence, If these people said you had the power, wouldn't you want to? In other words, overturn the election. Pence says, I wouldn't want one person to have that authority. Then Trump says to Pence, but wouldn't it be almost cool to have that power? Pence, no, I've done everything I could and then some to find a way around this. It's simply not possible. Trump loses it. No, no, no. You don't understand, Mike. You can do this. I don't want to be your friend anymore if you don't do this.
In addition to the dysfunction there are also more detailed accounts. Again, we know the former president was trying to find help anywhere he could, and we know this was having a dramatic impact across the Republican Party, not just across the country, but different reactions to the president from leaders within his own party.
100%. So Mitch McConnell is playing along for a while, but then Woodward and Costa report in the book that privately he wanted to be done with Trump and calls him a Kentucky slogan, an OTTB, off the track thoroughbred. Obviously, we know Kevin McCarthy was going down and to Mar-a-Lago and continues to go down. I will tell you, the January 6th Select Committee is going to take a very close look at this book. Steve Bannon is in it. They also, you know, the last book was called Rage. This could be Rage 2.0. There's scene after scene of Trump temper tantrums, lashing out, showdowns. Top advisors describe some of these scenes as something out of Full Metal Jacket or Dr. Strangelove. And I just want to also say that the book also does deal with Joe Biden's first 6 months in office, why he pulled out of Afghanistan and wanted to do that, and also the shadow of Trump over the Biden White House. Aides used to warn each other, don't use the T word. They didn't even want to say his name.
We're going to talk more about this in a few moments, and we're going to bring some political reporters in as well to help with the conversation. But I just want to pull the pieces together in the sense you talked about could be Rage 2.0. I say peril is actually a great appropriate subject because to use Mitch McConnell's words, the off-the-track thoroughbred wants to get back on the track. And so when we learn this history, very important for the January 6th committee, very important for everybody out there in America, Democrat, Republican, Independent, or something else, to look through the history of this, the conduct, the steps taken by General Milley, the rage and fury of the President of the United States. But the peril is the behavior is consistent. And he wants to shape his party today, tomorrow, into 2022, and he's already talking about a comeback in 2024.
There is no question, as you read through this book, that he is preparing for 2024 and that he still is going to push the big election lie.